Welcome to The Lounge, where I, Aminah Hughes, talk to people in the music, film, and other creative industries about the essence of their craft.
All right.
Well, can you feel the time passing through the dark night? Take me down to Bobby's on Music Row. I can feel the drum dancing on the river, calling out my name, and it feels like home.
I would like to welcome my very first guest on The Lounge, Zoee. She is an Australian country music artist living in Edinburgh, and we first met on the rainy streets of New York.
Hi, how you doing? It was so nice to be here with you. It's been such a long time since we caught up. It's great to see your face.
Thank you, you too. How are you doing over there? That's the first question.
Well, it's been rough. I'm not gonna deny it's been rough, but it's been surprisingly good. We've kind of like been bunkering down and working on new music and kind of like trying to keep our heads up and keep inspiring people to not, get their heads down and just channeling good energy. And it's very easy, I think, for everybody at this point in time to sort of fall into a bit of a pit and sort of feel left over and out from this year. This year has been a bit of a rough one, but all in all, and considering everything, I think we're doing okay. So yeah, it's been pretty good.
I think you're doing great based on what I've been seeing as well, but we'll get to that. I want to jump back a little and ask you a bit about where you grew up, because you grew up in Australia, but you sort of grew up all over the place.
Yeah, so I was born in Tassie and I grew up family all over Australia. I've got some in Perth. My grandparents live in Queensland, so I did a bit of growing up there. And the family and I, we built this massive RV when I was about 4, and we just went traveling all across the country. Like, we'd just get to a corner and they'd give me a coin and I'd flip a coin. My brothers would flip a coin and we'd just make a decision, like, which way do we go? And so we traveled pretty much all over Australia like that during all of my childhood years. And, due to that, we got to see so many different communities and the Aboriginal cultures and just meeting people, I think. And it was a really extraordinary way to grow up. And obviously it was home taught. So because of that, it meant that you got to kind of learn from life experiences, I guess, more than you would in a classroom situation. So with that in mind, kind of converting that to music, it's sort of been a pretty sort of smooth progression, I guess you could say, of life on the road, kind of being an artist, packing stuff up and just hitting the road and going from town to town to town. And it's sort of like, it's been a pretty wild adventure, I'll give you that. There's a long story to it. There's a book somewhere, I'm pretty sure, but it's near the beginning and there's lots more to come yet. So it's getting there.
It's similar to the Tommy Emmanuel story, I suppose, growing up in the car with the family, driving around, seeing what you can find, playing music, all of that stuff. Now, you've toured the world, but how did you end up in Edinburgh?
Great questions. Long story, that one. We was in Australia at the time. We just got back from Nashville and from the States on a family trip. And I played my first ever show in Nashville. And it was at a little place called Bobby's Idle Hour. And at that point, I wasn't really sure if music was something I wanted to pursue. It was just kind of a fun thing. And I thought, I'll take my ukulele on this trip, and I'll find some shows, we'll do some shows, have some fun. And I fell in love with it. And I came back to Australia, and the family said to me, like, you're kind of good at this. You probably should. Are you serious? Do you think this is something you should do? And I was like, well, I've always had the idea of 9 to 5. So that's kind of like, and I was doing website businesses and stuff like that prior to all that. And coding and things, and that wasn't something that really got me as excited as what music did. So they said to me, they're like, well, you should do this, and we'll support and do whatever we can to help you get to where you want to go with this. I'm like, you guys serious? And they went, yeah, we will. We believe in you. We love it. We love it. And they were there for the trip and everything, and they was kind of involved in it all, obviously. And so I just sort of said, okay, let's do it. And so they said, well, what's the plan? And I said, I have no idea. I just made the choice, like, let's work this out. So we kind of pretty much from there said, well, we love traveling, because the family and I've always loved traveling. We've always kind of been gypsies in that sense, I guess you could say, and we've always all loved music. And so it kind of made sense. We said to ourselves, well, we've never been to the UK, we've been to America, we've been to Canada, Mexico, we've been all across Australia, we've been, we've done some stuff in Asia, we've done a bit of Fiji and stuff. We said we've never been to Europe, we've never been to the continent, we've sort of never seen where our heritage kind of started, you know, Scotland, Ireland, England, all that kind of stuff. So we said, let's go and sort of see what the homelands are like, and let's see if music would work there maybe. And long story short, we ended up on a one-way ticket flight to the UK. No idea what the plan was. Arrived with absolutely no contacts, no friends, no nothing, just arrived and said, now what? So it was a pretty wild adventure, and obviously getting to find our feet in a brand new culture, a brand new country has been like this, you know, and the people have been so loving and so welcoming. And, you know, we had a rough start to begin with, I won't deny, but it definitely made for an awesome adventure and an awesome story. And, you know, we started down in England, in London, and, you know, getting shows and stuff down there is, as somebody that's never really done anything on the scene, was just ridiculously hard. People are paying for slots, and people are just fighting on top of each other to get, were fighting on before the lockdown, fighting on top of each other to get to venues, and, you know, competition was really strung high, and it's a very cutthroat place to get a start, I would say, from what I experienced. But so we said to ourselves, well, after 6 months of London, we thought it's too expensive, because we had 5 people, that was the whole family. We each had a Siberian Husky, so there's 5 dogs. And trying to find a place to live for that many people in London was just ridiculously expensive and virtually impossible. So we said, well, let's go north. You know, our family's heritage kind of comes from Ireland and Scotland. So let's see what Scotland's like. And so next thing we know, we're kind of like, we find this place in Scotland, and the Scottish are just so lovely and warm and welcoming. And, you know, it took a bit for us to get our teeth into the scene, into the music scene here. And kind of we started with the Fringe Festival, and slowly but surely, show after show, started to get more of a following and more of a, you know, like a foot in, I guess you could say, and people were really welcoming of the music, which was the surprising part, because you never can be sure what people are going to think of essentially a family band either. That's like another part of it. So yeah, it's sort of progressively unfolded, and you know, since then we've done full UK tours, headline tour last year, festivals all through Sweden and the States and Canada and New York, and like so many different things that have come from it since. And it's just been a slow growing evolution of sort of that you know, climb up. And it's from where it started to where it is now, it's phenomenal to think that progression has happened. And it's a real privilege to be able to do it with the family as well. And the people in Scotland are so music orientated. So we kind of just decided that, yeah, Scotland's pretty homely, and we kind of like it, and the weather is awful most of the time, and that's kind of like keeps you inspired to write kind of uplifting stuff. So for me, at least, it's kind of, yeah, it's a pretty great place to be, especially for music.
Yeah, you've certainly built yourselves up really, really well. I've, you know, spent some time myself, as you know, in England and Ireland, and I understand what you're saying about starting out in England in particular. You know, it's hard to get paid. It's hard to sort of make money on that festival circuit and all that kind of stuff. And I can certainly relate to the weather, having spent 7 years in Ireland.
Yeah,
so
Ireland pretty well. Huh? We went there last year actually to tour. And it was beautiful, but just so wet, so incredibly wet. We went and played in like the smallest pub in the world. It's called Sean's Bar in Athlone, and I'll never forget it. You go into this pub, and it's actually certified in the Guinness World Book of Records as being the oldest pub in the world. And they've got all the plaque and stuff on the wall, and you walk in and they've still got remnants and stuff of the original wall lining, which is made of like horsehair and clay and stuff. And you go down and they've got straw on the floor still, where they used to drain from the street, like the street would drain through the pub down to the river. And it's like, it's so much history, and it was so wild. We was welcomed in there pretty hard, actually. They sort of said to us, like, if you're a musician, we want you to come and play. And we just walked in as visitors that day, and next thing, half an hour later, we've got the guitars out and we're in there doing a show, you know. And it's just crazy. The music scene out there is phenomenal. So I can relate to your appreciation for it too. It's awesome.
Yeah, they're very much music-oriented people and community, which is great for sure. I remember being there when I'd sort of moved there, and I said to some people that I'd come there in 2007, and there'd been this beautiful day, this gorgeous weather, and I'd walked up the side of a mountain, and the people said, every single person I said that to said to me, "Oh, I remember that day in 2007, that gorgeous sunny day."
That one day, we hold on to it forever. I know, it's really, really crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Coming from Australia as well, it's like you don't realise how much you appreciate the warmer weather until you don't have it. It's wild.
Yeah, it never really bothered me though. I mean, it never stopped me from going out. You know, I just have my boots and I'd grab my coat, and if there was music on, if I had a gig or there was great music happening, you know, be out amongst it. So that was a good thing. Going for
I think
walks,
Billy
on the other
Connolly
hand.
said something like that. Actually, I was a quote I heard somewhere. He said, "Look, if you love the weather as much as you should out here living in Scotland, you just put on your pretty raincoat and you'll go and enjoy it regardless of the day." Like, and I thought that was kind of cool. You know, it's exactly how it should be too. You just get out and enjoy it no matter what's going on. And
Exactly. And I was always told there's no such thing as bad weather. There's just bad gear. So you're not dressed properly. That's all. You know.
That's the point. Yeah,
still
don't get your
enjoy
feet wet. Don't get your feet wet. You're done for. But yeah, if you keep yourself in good gear, you're good. I like that.
So I love Edinburgh as well. I think I've been to Edinburgh about 5 times. I saw Joan Baez there. I've
Oh, wow.
stayed with friends there and spent quite a bit of time there. Been there for Fringe. It's such a gorgeous, gorgeous city with so much history. You're just outside the city on a farm. So are you living the country life? Are you living
Pretty
as
much.
farmers?
It's, I mean, yeah, we've got friends out here now that are running farms. I could show you what it looks like here at the moment if you want to see the weather really quickly. It's really, really awful today. I don't know if you can see that. It's really, really rough.
Awful, terrible.
But yeah, as you can see, we're kind of literally on a farm and we're kind of like right in the middle of the countryside. We're only a few minutes away though from the ocean, which is really nice. And obviously being Australian, kind of the ocean is important. So it's a really nice balance. It's kind of like, I think you need that, especially with this lockdown, with kind of like, I couldn't imagine what it would be like being locked in the city at the moment. We did live for a while in an apartment place, in a flat setup in the city, and it was just awful. Like, you couldn't rehearse, you couldn't play music because the neighbours next door lived this far away from you, and just it was so you had no privacy, you had no backyard of your own. And going from a place, you know, like Australia, where you've got wide open spaces and you've got your own detached houses and farmlands, and then to sort of end up in these little box kind of houses with neighbours like right next door to you, and you can hear them watching TV next door, literally. It's like, wow, this what's going on, this is weird. So to have this kind of place here now, we're sort of set up, we've got that rural lifestyle again, that's very homely to me. It kind of kicks in the songwriting juices, you know, and kind of gets creativity flowing, which is really good.
That's awesome. And we met in the rain. We were standing under an awning outside the New York Opera Music Roadshow, huddled together, having a chat, and I met your entire family. You guys went off to do some other adventure because I think you'd just come back from Nashville. I had thought that it was your first time in Nashville when we met, but clearly not. And then I just remember running into a bookshop to take cover from the pouring rain. But I wanted to talk a bit about your family because you were all there at the roadshow, and just the energy coming off all of you. There was just so much energy, you know, just sort of bouncing around, and everyone was just so positive and happy and full of life, and it was really amazing. I think your dad in particular is quite a character, and I think he even at one point picked me up and swung me around, and he was just so excited about something. And
that sounds like Dad. That sounds exactly like Dad. He's got the best energy, honestly. And I mean, that's the thing with all of us, is we kind of like, we work together pretty well, and obviously being a family band and stuff, you keep each other inspired, and when one feels low, the other one kind of jumps in and picks you up again and kind of gets you back on your feet. And I think with the music especially, there are so many times where you feel like, that didn't work, this didn't work, that was a no, this was a no, and you're constantly getting setbacks and knockbacks, and to have that kind of energy around, especially for me, like, it's like, you couldn't ask for anything better than that. So, and that was such a fun day, getting to this week. That was a great occasion. And again, raining. We seem to bring the rain, you and I, wherever we get to. I've noticed that. But no, brilliant day. And obviously all the guys at APRA they're so lovely. And I do miss not being able to kind of travel and catch up with everybody like that. You know, it's sort of,
yeah,
I don't know. I can't wait for that part to happen. I'm getting the touring blues at this point. June rocked around, and that was when we were caught up in New York, you and I was there for CMA Fest in Nashville. Originally, that's what we came for. And while we was there, we went and played the Bluebird, and we went and played Belcourt Taps and Big Machine and a bunch of other places and stuff. And, you know, that was while I was in New York as well. Then we went and recorded to vinyl and did some stuff there with APRA, met you and hung out and did that. So, I mean, it's been so many things keep flashing up on my social media all the time. Like, this happened a year ago, that happened a year ago. And it's like, oh God, no, it's just like keep reminding me of all the good times. It's so different now, and I miss it so much.
I've lately been posting in my Instagram stories just throwbacks to me in different countries at different cities at different times. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I was going to ask you about having your family on the road with you because, again, a family band, but also you've got in your parents, you have managers, you've got bookers, you've got people doing videos for you, creating that kind of content for your socials and all of your promo, including your little brother. Your older brother, Zed, plays with you on stage, as does your father. So you're really a traveling team, which is just amazing. I can't imagine having all of that on the road with me. That would be awesome. What's
it's
it
really
like?
Great. Oh, it's like I couldn't ask for a better team because they know when you've had enough. You know, it's not like you've got a management team that are just going to keep pushing you until you start to break. They know, as because they're family, they know when you've had enough, or they know when you can push a little bit more, and they'll push you a little bit more. And I think that kind of defines the barrier a little bit for being creative, and it just keeps you chasing. And for me, I mean, I'm always pretty driven for this. This is, you know, I'm kind of like, they tell me that I'm the leader of all this craziness, and they just do whatever I ask them to do, which is pretty accurate in a state. Actually, they're kind of like, if I need something done, I just say it, and the boys are on it. You know, set this up, do that, we'll make this happen. Mum, we need to get this happening, that happening, and Mum will just organise whatever I need to have organised. You know, and when it comes to doing bookings and stuff like that, she's kind of like the captain of all that side of it. And her and I work together pretty closely. I mean, it's all still independent. Everything we do is self-funded and, you know, organised by ourselves. So we've only just started working with a PR agency over in Texas, actually, and that's Platinum Lux, and they've been doing some stuff with radio and stuff like that for these new singles. But prior to that, everything has been completely independent. So, and the whole family scenario, it's so wonderful because not only do you have to try and like inspire yourself if you're just an independent artist, you don't have to worry about that with the family. But more than that, I think you've also got this team that have the same kind of, they understand your direction for what you're going for. They're not trying to change you, and they're not trying to say you should dress this way, you should change that, you shouldn't sing this song, you should, you know, I've had labels and stuff try and do stuff with me and want to work with me and things, and it's come down to the fine line of, well, we need to change the band, we need to change the way you dress, we need to give you these songs. I got these songs that we just got from this new artist, and she's hot, and there's this and there's that, and you should sing these songs, we'll get you on the pop charts. It's like, this is in the direction I want to go, you know. And the family scenario, it's like, whatever you want to do, Zoe, we're there behind you. And that freedom, that's is great. So precious. Like, it's so phenomenal, and they're 100% all the way, you know. So I couldn't ask for a better team at all. I count my blessings every day because I'm so lucky to have them like they are.
That's amazing. Great, and great to have that support as well, like you say, on the road, and no one pushing you too hard. So you have, you know,
I get caught up. Like, no, right. The other thing that happens when I'm out at shows is I'll finish a show and I want to talk to everybody for hours afterwards because I kind of like to meet everyone and chat, and you know, you can run into the hours quite easily, and I'll sit there for 2 or 3 hours listening to someone talk about their cat. And Mum will be like, Zoe, we need to get on to the next show because we're going to be late, you know. So it's good to have that kind of team there as well to kind of keep me on track, because it is easy to get caught up in it all, and you kind of like, you know, you just get to them too. So it's good.
Or like you need to get to bed, because that's the thing when you're on the road, you know, you're up early, you're traveling to the next place, you get there, you do a sound check, you have dinner, you perform, people want to talk to you, you go to bed, you're up early again. There's not a lot of time for sleep a lot of the time and relaxation. So it's really important to get to bed as well.
And especially, I mean, exactly, especially being independent as well. You're not only doing that, you're also running your socials. You're also making sure that everybody's happy, you know, event coordinators and stuff like that. They've got everything they need behind the scenes, and things are being taken care of. Just that side of the admin side of it, you know, being your own label, essentially. You know what that's like. You've got to take care of all of that side.
Yeah.
And that's just draining enough by itself, let alone then doing the show and all those other things you just mentioned too. So it is crazy amount of energy you need to pursue this career choice, I think, but it's worth it. It's so worth it.
So you've played all throughout the UK and Europe, as you've mentioned, and done gigs in the States. What was one of your highlights, either from performing or being on the road?
Wow. I think, there are so many good answers to that question. Very, very good question.
On
I
stage moment.
On stage, I think one of the most I don't know if I can mention this one. There's a really, really random, ridiculous moment that happened at Transmit Festival last year.
Great, come on.
Probably one of the best shows that I've ever gotten to do was probably the Bluebird and CMA Fest. They were probably my favourites. And obviously getting to play some of the big festivals over in the UK, like Transmit Festival, where they had Lewis Capaldi playing, and Tom Grennan and a bunch of others, and George Ezra. That was pretty phenomenal. Just getting to be in that kind of atmosphere and you know, hanging out with those kind of people and this setup and being involved in that was phenomenal. But one of the most ridiculous things that ever I don't know how vivid I can get in storytelling here, but this is a little bit avant-garde, this one.
Go for it.
Go for it. Okay, so I have my brother, he's my drummer, Zed. And the ladies are quite fond of him because he's tall and he's blonde and he's tanned and he's Australian and everyone calls him Chris Hemsworth, and it's like, oh, that's his sister. I'm like, no.
He does look like the fourth Hemsworth brother, I have to say. I didn't notice that.
Oh no, he's gonna love that. So all these they just love him out here, especially when he starts talking and they hear his accent. So there was this one show we had, and it was so funny. It was Transmit Festival, and we were just finished doing our sound check, and he's on the cajon at this point, and these two girls are at the front barriers of the, you know, the actual big steel barrier, right at the front. And I think they'd had a few drinks, and they were having a great time. They were cheering us on. I mean, we just finished sound check, so it wasn't that impressive. It was just sound check. And we just finished that, was getting ready to start the show. And show starts, first song in, second song in, they're cheering and screaming like crazy, like, Sad, we love you, so you're amazing. And they're going off. And it was so great until they lifted their shirts and they had nothing on, and they start showing Zed what's like how excited they are about it, and I start like smiling and laughing and trying to look away while I'm still trying to maintain playing the song. I'm like, okay, you guys, this is like, you should save this for after the show. And next thing I know, that I think that they thought that I wanted to see as well. So next thing they turned to me and they're like showing me. I'm like, guys, no. It was really hilarious. And they come up to him after and they're like, can we see Zed? Can we talk to Zed? Is he around? And I'm like, I'll just go and find him. And he's out the back doing something. And I said, Zed, there's some girls that want to see you. He's like, yeah, guys, I'll be back in 10. I'll see you in a little bit. And I'm like, no.
You know he's going to kill you for telling that story.
He's going to kill me. He's going to absolutely kill me. There's been some very, very hilarious events on stage where things like that have happened. We've had shirts thrown up on stage at us. Thankfully, no underwear, which has been quite a relief. I think, yeah, I mean, I've been quite lucky in that sense, I guess. Shirts and stuff, hats and things, that's been the primary thing. But I think just the most special thing is when you start to feel that vibe happening with the audience. Like there's that kind of like, you know what that feeling's like. It's kind of like that energy starts to bounce around the room and they start to get excited and they keep that energy level going with you, and you kind of bounce off that, they bounce off you, and it just becomes this like vortex of energy and fun and excitement, and you, I mean, that feeling is what I miss the most about performing live. And these live streams at home are great because, you know, we can still connect with everybody and we can still share the music and stuff, but that essence of getting to do a live show where that happens, I miss that. That's what I miss the most, I think.
I was going to say, I don't really get that experience so much because our shows are very different. I more make people cry. So people just sit in my shows and it's a very sort of storytelling, gentle, poetic kind of, I think, experience and sort of, you know, it gets emotional. And then I think just most of the time I just, you know, I make people cry. That's my specialty. But I have done that's
a special thing, though, to have that emotion.
It's really nice.
People in like that. It's beautiful.
I love making people cry. It's great. It's what I do.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
But I mean, I've been on stage with Tommy Emmanuel, and I've when I sang with him, this was in the Waterfront Hall in Belfast, which is a huge concert hall, and his audience is electrifying. You know, the energy coming off them. So I have got to sort of experience that feeling. It was all for him. I was just, I guess by extension, they extended it to me for a little while, but it was his audience. They just love him. And then doing I did an Etta James tribute show for the Fringe Festival here in January, and that was really fun. That was very uplifting and soulful and fun, and I got to sort of go down into the audience and point at people and sing at them and stuff, and it's really fun doing that kind of show. But yeah, my own stuff is not that at all. It's just a little cry factory.
I think to be able to pull like a show like that together where it's so emotional that you can tap into people's emotions like that, fun emotion is probably, I think, a lot easier to tap into than probably the sad one, because people naturally want to feel happy. But to get people feeling emotion like that, there's been a few shows where I've had that happen too, and there's something really beautiful about that when people start to really get connected, and I take my hat off to you for doing that. It's incredible.
Thanks. It's nice, but you can't sort of do it everywhere, so I'm not, I don't do the pub thing anymore, and it's different. It's a different vibe, but still, it's still good for festivals and art centres and theatres and stuff like that.
No, I know what you mean though. Like I've played shows too where you get that energy from bigger audiences. Like we did a festival last year with Scouting for Girls, and I mean their stuff I grew up on in Australia. It was like they were always on the radio, and getting to play for their audience was like, oh my gosh, they just love them. And that energy was huge. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Oh, many, many, many years ago when I was starting out, I got to support the Waylon Jennies, and that was that kind of vibe where people are there. Yeah. It was sort of it was in my pretty early days, and it was sort of what made me think, hey, I can do this. Like I want to do this. I want to sort of have an audience that comes in and they sit down and they listen, and they're there for the storytelling as much as anything else. And it sort of flicked a switch for me to sort of go, yeah, I like this vibe, so
I like that.
Kind of gone down that path. But you are the queen of country entertainment, as far as I can say from all of your videos. Definitely high energy, definitely entertaining, and getting people up, shaking their booty, and apparently other things. So
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you have to bleep all that out later or something. Maybe just edit that part. That was
why
unforgettable show. I'll give you
life.
That. I've been there's been so many other great times that have happened, and playing on the same stage as Cam and doing stuff like that. Phenomenal energy up there. She put on an amazing show, and I played just before her, kind of thing. And again, same crowd, same energy. Wow, just phenomenal. And I mean that was in Millport actually that we did that show, and that's a little island off the coast of Scotland. And to get there, you got to take like a half-hour ferry ride to get there. And there's only a couple of stores on the on the island, and the festival's there. And it was a day like today that we were playing. And Cam was set to play like, I don't know, a couple of hours just after me. And the audience were just so dedicated. They were in their ponchos, standing in the rain, getting soaked through, their cameras getting wet, just waiting for everybody to come out. And when I came out to do our set, we had an hour set, and it was like, oh my gosh, you guys are just so dedicated. And the energy was just bang on every single song, and you can't buy that kind of joy and that passion. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I miss about it, especially in Scotland. In the UK, the energy that they have here for festivals, for live music, especially country. Wow, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think some of those gigs are some of the best. The smaller gigs, even some of my favourite gigs I've ever done have been house concerts. Where you've got 30 people or something, or maybe up to 100 people or something, sort of crowded into a small space, and you don't even need a microphone. You just throw all that stuff out, do it acoustically, but everyone is just hanging on every word, and it's a community experience. You eat together, you hang out with everyone afterwards, and sort of, I don't know, it's just a really nice warm lounge room kind of vibe.
I hear you. I think that's where the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville have got it right on the money. They kind of have this setup where they have in the round, and then they have writers' nights, and everyone's going to be quiet, and you've got to kind of just sit and appreciate the music. And it's so nice because some of the unsung heroes of country music that's been their ground where they get to go and showcase what they've done. And these artists that have written these phenomenal songs for people like Taylor Swift and Garth Brooks and, you know, Kenny Rogers, they get to actually shine, and to sit in a room and listen to them tell these stories of what these songs mean to them, like, wow, that's so, and that's that same warm feeling you're talking about, and that's so good.
Yeah, exactly. And also,
I think you'd love playing that place. Actually,
I would. I've been to Nashville. I don't know. I can't remember 2 or 3 times now, and I've recorded there, and I've, you know, directed a music video there, but I still haven't made it out to the Bluebird Cafe. Can you believe that?
Oh, and when you go, we're gonna have to go together. We're gonna do it together. But when you go, you're gonna have to find, like, it's so hard to find. It's like the tiniest little place in the middle of this, like, mall. It's really crazy.
I just never had the time when I was there, you know, especially when I was shooting the music video. I arrived, you know, one night, did a recce the next day, shot it the next day, and then had to go. So I just haven't made it out to that little village that it's in. And I've been to the Ryman, though. I love the Ryman. That's gorgeous. That's an iconic place.
Oh my goodness.
Home of the Grand Ole Opry, for anyone who's listening who is not familiar, but so much history in Nashville, so much fun to be had.
Walk into that place and you can just feel like the echoes of the songs that have been played in there, and it's sort of like still bouncing off the rafters and around the room. It's phenomenal, that place.
Exactly.
Absolutely phenomenal.
And I mean, such a good music scene. I mean, obviously, iconically, you know, to do with country music, but also such a great blues scene, bluegrass scene. There's a great rock scene. There's just a phenomenal music scene there altogether, and a lot of Australians there now, actually.
There's a few of us out there, isn't there? Katrina's out there, and Phil Barton's out there, and obviously we've got Morgan Evans and stuff kind of getting out there now with Kelsey and Keith, and all that kind of stuff's happening a bit more. So it's pretty neat. Like, whenever I'm out in Nashville, that's the thing I find so incredible about the city, is you expect it to be so just country orientated, but I don't think it is as much as the stereotype portrays it to be anymore. It's very, as you say, it's kind of like crossing into alternative, Americana, blues, rock. You know, there's even hip hop artists and stuff that I met while I was there, you know, and you naturally don't associate the city with being that, but it really is. It's growing so exponentially.
Yeah, and if you get off the tourist strip, get off Broadway and go out to some of this other venues and smaller venues, and you know, then you're going to find a lot more alternative music as well, you know, to get away from where all the tourists go.
Absolutely, I agree.
Now, speaking of Nashville, I was going to ask you what you love about Nashville, because you dropped a new single last month called Nashville. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I fell in love with the place, and it's one of those cities, I think, where you go to, you get this warm feeling, and it's all across the South. Like, there's this embrace that you get whenever you go there, and it's like, I think it's just the culture. I think it's just the roots of the South, and I just resonate with that. Being Australian, I think that's kind of like very much like our heritage anyways. We're kind of very laid back, we're very, very loving, very warm. Music matters, and I think that's where that kind of relevance comes together for me, and going to Nashville and experiencing that first on, being a new artist and being so welcomed and so warmly welcomed. That's where it just, I was like, this is going to be a song about Nashville, you know, and I love it there. It's like a second home to me now, and the music always has, for me, come from that kind of area, you know, from Neil Young. I reference Neil in the song, actually, from you know, Bruce Springsteen right through to Dolly, Loretta, Kenny, you know, you name it. It's kind of like, it's always, and I look back at it as a kid growing up, and all the references of music that I've listened to has kind of come from that area. And when I got there, it all just kind of hit me. I was like, wow, this makes sense. I get it now. Like, I really get it. And so that song came about pretty easily, actually. And it's been welcomed pretty well as well. So I'm pretty proud of that one. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's very much a Nashville country song. I used to think that I had written country songs, and then I went to Nashville, and it was just a completely different vibe. I realized that I'm sort of more Memphis country blues. So I'm sort of that end of country, very much with the blues influence, old country or whatever. So, and I realized I'm not Nashville country at all, but you are very Nashville country. And that song is iconically, and it's honestly, like, it's so catchy. I couldn't get it out of my head.
Nashville,
or 4 singles in August?
Well, we'll have Nashville, then I had The Song We Sing, and then Break My Heart, and I'm getting ready for the 4th one. So
There
that's
you
coming
go.
up in a couple of weeks. But yes, we had The Song We Sing, which was the kind of like a bit of a song about unity and kind of standing together and finding that happiness inside ourselves again with this lockdown and everything. And then this next one, which is Break My Heart, which is kind of, there's, interestingly enough, both those songs surprisingly tie together as like part 1 and part 2. And I haven't really told anybody about that yet. But Break My Heart is kind of like the story of kind of emerging into the world as a grown up and going from this younger person to sort of realizing that this world is full of opportunities and like excitement, and you're kind of all excited and ready for everything to start happening, and then you realize that life kind of there's so many things that want to suppress you and kind of compress all of your dreams and sort of get you into that rut, and you sort of fall into that cycle, and it's getting your heart broken. Essentially that's what that song's about. So it's kind of like a pick me up towards the end. It's like, you know what, just break my heart, I don't care, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want anyway, and you can't stop me. That's kind of the message of that song. And then following up with that is The Song We Sing, which is a song of unity and standing together, and like, you know what, if this is the way it really is, this is how it's going to go, and this is the song we sing, and we stand together and we hold hands and we help each other up, and when we fall we climb back up again and we keep going. And that's, so it's kind of like they kind of both work together, and that will unfold more over the next course of the couple of weeks coming, because I have some other stuff that I've been working on very recently that is to come out very soon. I can't say too much, it's really tricky, I can't say too much. But yeah, I think you know, because you and I talked about this already anyway, so yes.
I might. But yeah, I was going to ask you about the inspiration behind The Song We Sing, but I think you've pretty much nailed it there. But it's obviously a very personal song to you and something that came out of these times.
Absolutely. So it's like, obviously with the music in general, I think it's just a hard place to kind of develop and grow, and everybody's watching you, so you're kind of like always in the public eye. When you make a mistake, everyone's watching. But I think it's when you make the mistake but you get back up, or you fall down for whatever reason, you get back up and you just keep pushing. And in life, I think that's the only thing we can do, is no matter how hard it's getting, you just keep getting back up and keep trying again, and it eventually will it'll see you through. And there's the same thing, there's so many subliminal messages in that song, and it references my music career, how I've fallen, and you just keep getting up and you keep going again, because you know that if you just keep doing it, it's eventually going to work. And it's about life, that if you just hang on a little bit longer, you're going to get to where it is you're trying to get to. And so many people have referenced that song to helping them, out of bad situations and helping them get back on track with life again. And I mean, it's such the song can be applied to so many things. It's a very universal song in that sense. So it's about kind of holding hands and getting up and finding your way again. So in honor of all that, we decided to put together a competition for the song. And anybody that wants to get involved, all they have to do is just do a performance of themselves, either doing something that gets them excited and inspired for life. So that could be doing whatever they love. It could be riding a bike, it could be playing with their dog, it could be walking, it could be hiking, doing whatever, having the song playing with them, doing whatever that activity is, or singing it themselves, and then submit that in, and they could win up to £500, so £500 actually, for the song we sing. So it's kind of like the message of that is as well to try and get people out and enjoying life and doing stuff that's inspiring and reminding themselves of that fun side of their own person that they used to know, because I think as you slowly progressively get through life, you let go of those little threads of those ideas and those dreams and those thoughts that you was like, oh yeah, I could do that, I could do this. If you just pour the energy into it, you could do it. But you sort of slowly but surely, life gets to you, the job gets in, the 9-to-5 stuff rolls around, and it just starts to slowly but dwindle little by little, and you kind of forget that part of it. And that's what the song we sing is all about. It's about kind of getting back on that horse and getting back into it, and finding that part of you that you might have sort of left. So
that's great.
Yeah.
It's great making that connection with people as well. Your latest single, Break My Heart, was the first time you've recorded singing an Australian accent. So what inspired you to sound more Aussie for this last recording?
Actually, good question. I grew up listening to Casey Chambers and Slim Dusty and Graham Connors and Sarah Storer and like so many incredible Aussie artists, and I always thought, gosh, it's like we have this female artists that sing with the accent. There's this real haunting sound that kind of comes with that accent, and I decided to write the song Break My Heart, and as I was writing it I was like, oh, I can sing this one in an Australian accent, and it stuck. I now can no longer sing the song with any other accent at all, and it sounds really wacky if I try and do it. So it just kind of stuck, and I was really proud of that, because it is the first song that I've done in my accent. And whenever I'm at a show and I play that song, I normally sing an American accent, but whenever I bring that song into the set, everyone's like, kind of sit back in the chair like, where did that come from? Like, they didn't, and I don't notice it as much. It just happens naturally now. I'm just playing the song because I'm so used to doing it. And people are like, I didn't even know you were Australian. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, wow. And it's a nice feeling, because you can kind of, it keeps things fresh, I guess. And it shows the homage to Australia and home, and I kind of like that. So yeah, that's how that came about.
Yeah, it's nice. I actually did the opposite. I started out singing in an Australian accent for years, it was very folksy, because I kind of started out as a, I don't know, contemporary folk singer. But then when I got into the more bluesy side of stuff, it just didn't work. It sounded horrible. I had to change my accent.
I'm gonna hear this though.
No, and I started, singing Irish music, Irish songs, and that I had to change the accent a bit. And blues, I think, is one of those things that you just can't. It just does not sound right in an Australian accent. I used to think that about Aussie hip hop, but then I changed my mind. I got used to it, and now I love it.
Me too. Bliss and Esther is like one of my favorite groups ever. They're great. Hilltop Hood's another great band. But wow, I love that. I mean, I think it's the same thing too. Is like Irish singing. You sing like folk music, especially, and for what you play, that kind of Irish accent in music, it sounds so warm and so homely. And I think that's another thing about our accent, Australian accents. You put that into music, it kind of gives it that real warm feeling, which I want to hear more of what you've done now on this front, actually, the kind of bluesy Australian stuff.
Older stuff. I think I feel like now I don't worry about it anymore. I just feel like each song that I write almost has a character, so I'm performing a character, because I'm not in that headspace anymore that I was when I wrote that song. I'm not with that person anymore. I don't really feel this way about that anymore, and it doesn't carry the same emotional weight. And it's so, in order to perform it believably, I sort of have to step into character, and so the accent for each song is part of that character, and that's just how I view it now. So I certainly don't make any apology for my rapidly changing accent on stage.
I like that. I love that. I think you've got to do what you got to do with it, and that's the artist in itself, is believing 100% in whatever it is you're doing, and that's really, really lovely to hear.
I was talking on someone else's podcast recently about performing, and the fact that so many musicians are sort of suffering, I guess, a crisis of identity in not being able to perform, because a lot of people sort of love to perform, to get out and get amongst it. That's how they socialize a lot of the time, and there's a lot of mental health issues and depression sort of circulating around the music community. I feel very lucky in that I have other things to be doing, making a short film at the moment, writing a screenplay, as you can see up there, which I'm completely procrastinating at the moment from doing, which is why I started this video podcast. It's a great distraction, but I feel very fortunate to have other things to be doing. My identity isn't made up entirely of just being a performer, and I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as musicians to go out and to have a very full gig list. And we're sort of told, if someone looks at your event listing on your website, somebody important looks at your event listing, it needs to be full. You need to look like you're performing a lot of the time. And I feel like, one thing this whole COVID situation has done, I mean, it's sort of been hard for people to not do that. But the other side of the coin is that it's taken that pressure off as well. How are you feeling about that, about not performing at the moment?
Great points, really, really great points, and very true too. There are so many artists that I know, and I've had myself in the same position where you think you have to have that full gig list, because if anyone looks at your site, if you're not doing more than everybody else, then you're not going to be at the top of the game. And it's a very strange peer pressure to put yourself in that place, to put yourself. where you look at people like, you know, Shawn Mendes and all these other artists that are just going on YouTube and uploading a video of themselves and not really, you know, needing anything like that to get noticed. That just happens. And I think the pressure that we put on ourselves as artists is enormous. And for anybody to take that kind of load on board, it's not healthy. And I think there's a point where you've got to say to yourself, you know, is it worth putting your own mental health at stake because of everybody else's judgment and making them feel like, yeah, you're doing the best you should be doing. At the end of the day, I mean, this is what I've found too with having lockdown. It's been such a nice, prior to the lockdown, I should say, I was on a full tour, and then for 2020 I had a whole nother full year of touring planned, and was going to the States, was going to Canada, Germany, Sweden, a full UK tour, Ireland, Scotland, obviously. And you know, it was just going to be go, and you just kind of get into that traction of thinking this is what has to happen. And as an artist that is a performing artist, essentially that's where you make most of your income, from your shows, your merchandise and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, with this lockdown in motion, for me, it's allowed me to kind of take a breather from it all and sort of step back and go, okay, let's prioritize what needs to be really done. And this year for me really was putting out new music. Because I was only touring on a couple of songs that I'd released. I'd only had 3 songs out. And one of those was a film soundtrack. One of those was a song called It's the Weekend, and the other one was called This Time. And that's like an acoustic, just me with a guitar, kind of folky ballad. So it's, I mean, to think that all those things have happened over the course of the last 4 years on those 3 songs has been a phenomenal thing. But to take the year that has been 2020 and turn that into putting out new music and taking the time to write new music, you know, and put together another 10, 20 songs and put together music videos and really connect with my audience online and sort of just develop at my own pace rather than have to focus on what shows has to be taken care of, when we have to be here, when this has to happen, and that pressure of making sure that you're doing a good thing as a performing artist. It's definitely taken the load off. And it's given me that chance to just look at everything and go, yep, okay, now I'm ready to go again, you know. Yeah. And I think that you need that little bit of a gap. You need that little bit of a break. And you know, some of the artists that are out there, like you know, Keith Urban and Taylor Swift and all these other artists that are out there, they're just constantly on the go. Where they find time to take those little breaks, I have no idea. And I think. Yeah. Like mentally healthy, I think that's a really big important part of this, because you can't be your best version of yourself for everybody if you're not putting in what you need as a person, you know. And if you're just constantly giving out, you're going to slowly but surely feel yourself crumbling a little bit because you're not getting anything back. And that's what this lockdown, I think, has done for artists. It's allowed artists to sit at home and go, okay, breathe, now think. Just
take stock, because we never give ourselves a break. We never take a break. And some of the bigger artists you've mentioned, they have you know, teams who are still continuing to work for them even when they're taking a break, so they can go on holiday and their marketing team, their PR team keep working. You know, they're even posting to their socials for them if they just want to have some time off. But independent artists, we never get a break. We can never sort of get off that treadmill. And I, you know, I think it's I mean, I know I had 4 days off last year in the entire year, and that included 2 trips to the States, and it was just constant. Like, I was absolutely exhausted in January of this year. And you know, this sort of, it has, you know, I think it's good to find the opportunities that come out of this crisis, and sort of one of them has definitely been a chance to take stock and sit back and think about, well, what are my priorities and what do I really want to do? And also just, you know, reframe, I guess, how we see ourselves, or what direction we really want to be going in. And
100%.
Sort of,
that's a big too for a lot of artists. They just kind of, I've met so many artists myself, and you ask, like, what's the goal for this? Like, I just want to get my music out there, but what does that mean? And for me, myself, that's always the hardest question when anybody asks me that too. And I know the pressure of that question. But it's given you that time to sit and go, what does that mean? What do I want from this? Why am I doing this? You know, and kind of evaluate the steps forward to get to where it is that you're actually aiming to get to, rather than just sort of willy-nilly saying, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this show, I'll do that show, and if I have enough shows at the end of the day and somebody miraculously comes on my website and sees how many shows I'm doing, they'll think I'm, you know, an amazing artist, and they'll want to talk to me, and you know, it'll go from there. And a lot of the time that kind of magic I don't think happen as often as we'd like it to in the industry. And a lot of the time you're just doing it yourself, and you just got to, I think, accept the idea that it is you that's making it happen. You're not just waiting on this treadmill for something miraculous to happen before your eyes. You know, you've got to get off the treadmill, and you've got to actually start making motion yourself. And I think that's the hardest part. But I mean, this lockdown has been so good for that. It's been really rejuvenating for me as a person to try and just kind of refresh and restart. And I'm really glad you asked that question. That was an awesome question, by the way. Really
thanks.
Good.
And to reframe things, and, you know, like you said, rejuvenate and all that kind of thing. Recharge, really, I guess, is the thing. I know for me there are things that I'm doing now that I would certainly not be doing if it weren't for this whole situation. And you found that yourself, haven't you?
Oh, 100%. You know, like getting to release new music. I had no plans of releasing new music this year, not in the way that I've done already. And I've got plans to continue to release new music until the end of the year, and to record music videos. None of that was on the agenda. Getting to write, you know, 10, 20 new songs, that wasn't on the agenda. And getting to connect with people, obviously online, and get to do virtual things and hang out and stuff like that. None of that was on the agenda, you know. So there's been so much positivity that's come from all this, and productivity. And again, it comes back to investing in you as the artist as well. You can't just constantly give out. You have to, you kind of retract and rejuvenate, and then you can give back more. And if you really, I think you've got to find that balancing point of how much do you give before you start to take a little bit. And it is a balance. You got to find that. And this lockdown's done that for me, because I was getting into that cycle too, where you just think, I got to do show after show after show after show and build audience and network and share the music. But
it's never ending, isn't it? It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
That's exactly what it is.
But I'll stand up here in front of all of you, imagining what it was like when I was imagining you. I'm a rolling stone.
Got so much fantastic material, and I love your promo videos from On the Road as well. We've been showing some of those during the chat, but so I have another question for you. This is our last question, really, but there was a weekend recently when you shot 4 music videos in one weekend. My question is, are you mad?
Does that count as an answer? Yeah, so we had our videographer. He is moving country, and he had one spare weekend left in his schedule, and we said, I want to get 4 videos done. And he said, well, I don't know how we'd get that many done, but we could try if you really thought it was possible. And so I said, yep, okay, and went to task with making a full day planner for the whole 2 days. We had 2.5 days essentially to get 4 music videos done, full music videos. And of course I didn't make them simple. I made them very complicated, and they're like a full friggin' story. There's scene after scene after scene. It's not just like one take wonder. It's like, so he looked at the treatments that I sent him, and he's like, okay, are you sure this is what you want to do? And I'm like, yep, this is what we're going to do. So out came the day planners, and I planned everything out. We're starting at 7 a.m. We're going here, we're going there, we've got to be done by this hour, we need the extras here by this time, we need this, we need that, mum needs to organise food for the set, and, you know, we need to have this lighting set up, that set up, and it was just ridiculous. And we didn't get finished most evenings till like 11:30 at night, and then we'll be back up again and have to be ready and dressed and, you know, like attire, everything ready to go by like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. So by the time we finished, everybody was just so stiff and sore, and I was like, I hate you, Zoe, we're never doing this ever again. But we managed to get through all 4 videos, and we ended up squeezing in 3 photo shoots in 2.5 days, which is ridiculous. But I think I'm kind of proud with what we've managed to achieve. And it wasn't just simple stuff either. We had to get filming permission, locations, because we ended up doing some stuff on the airport, and we even did some drone stuff on the airport, which, as you probably can imagine, getting drone permission at an airport, active airport, it was crazy. So it was like, this has to happen, that has to happen, and it was just go. But we ended up getting it all done, and there are 4 videos on their way very, very soon. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I'm kind of.
Well, I can't wait to see them. I want to thank you so much for joining me, Zoe, on my very first episode of The Lounge.
Thanks for having me. See ya.
Bye.
The Lounge is brought to you by Sky Woman Productions in Australia, produced by Travis Curry at Curry Media in Canada. Subscribe on YouTube, Twitch, or wherever you find your podcasts, and watch us live via the Aminah Hughes pages on Facebook or Twitter. I would like to extend a big thank you to my very special guests and to all of you beautiful people for watching or listening. Thank you for joining me on The Lounge.